The Brash American. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I'm going to look at an article that has appeared in the American Thinker as it passes comment upon Harry's wife and once again shows the failure by many people to recognize and understand what she truly is and why she behaves as she does. For those of you who are unfamiliar, American Thinker is a daily online magazine dealing with American politics from a politically conservative viewpoint. It was founded in 2003 by attorney Ed Lasky, healthcare consultant Richard Baer, and sociologist Thomas Lifson. And it initially became prominent in the lead-up to the 2008 US presidential election for its attacks on then-candidate Barack Obama. The magazine has been described as a conservative blog. The Southern Poverty Law Center has called the site a not-so-thoughtful, far-right online publication. That gives you a little flavour as to what it is. But irrespective of what you might regard it as politically, let us see what it has to say about the Duchess of Overseas. An article by Trish Randall commences with, "Making Harry's wife make sense." Evidently, the starting point is that she does not make sense, which is understandable, but let us look further into this. Since Halloween 2016, Harry's wife has received lots of attention, which of course, my observation, is that that's what she wants because it's fuel. Much came with her boyfriend, and later husband, Prince Harry, the intimate partner primary source, and his place in the British line of succession, which of course is status, which was a residual benefit. Some was generated by the Sussex Squad, a small, dedicated and bellicose fan base. Early on, there was excitement for this newest British royal family member. She was the Brash American, a breath of fresh air for a stuffy palace. Early reports of conflicts with staff and family members were counted as culture clashes. Pausing there, that is a typical response of where an individual who is argumentative and disruptive has their behaviour put down to something other than what is actually behind it. That the repeated argumentative clashes that occurred were representative of her sense of entitlement, lack of accountability for her behaviour, and of course when people were saying, we don't do it that way, we do it this way, or simply told her no, that was a threat to control. But rather than realise that they were dealing with a narcissist, they attributed the behaviour to a culture clash. Many people who are ensnared by a narcissist attribute the behaviour to, they've got an anger management problem, or she's high maintenance. Maybe they're stressed or they're tired. They don't see what it actually is. The article continues by explaining that her go-getaways were misinterpreted. Staff emails sent at 5 a.m., assertion of control, lack of boundary recognition, were a time zone mismatch due to business with California contacts. Although, of course, that doesn't really stack up, because that would mean that it would be 9 p.m. in California. Most people would be at home and maybe even going to bed at that time. Some Harry's wife's missteps were just odd. Where there was her first royal family walkabout with the late Queen Elizabeth II, wearing a hat that could not be seen as a poo emoji. Harry's wife was photographed sticking out her tongue at the public. See parts past him as to why she did that. More than once she did this. Apparently seized by inspiration from visiting a charity, she wrote banal words of encouragement. You are strong, you are brave, on the skins of bananas, intended for distribution to women that People magazine described as street sex workers. That, of course, are the bananas of empowerment. See parts past him. Riding in an open carriage after her royal wedding ceremony, she was heard dropping an F-bomb. Uncouth. Sense of entitlement. While expecting her son Archie, Harry's wife's bump size fluctuated wildly, sparking allegations of moon bump use and a fictional or surrogate pregnancy. Lady Colin Campbell speculated several times on her YouTube channel that Harry's wife might wear a moon bump while pregnant for attention, to conceal the due date, or to conform to Hollywood convention where pregnant characters always look ready to pop. Signs surfaced that the tales of strife swirling around this misfit Duchess weren't just over-dramatised misunderstandings. An unprecedented 9 of Harry's wife's staff resigned. That, of course, is the consequence of the disruptive relationships that a narcissist has with people. Harry and Harry's wife told the Queen that Archie was too young to fly to Scotland to visit, just before flying with the baby to Elton John's French estate. Hypocrisy. As Prince Philip was dying, Oprah's interview aired their vague accusations of royal racism, which Harry denied to British journalist Tom Bradby 2 years later. Harry claimed they asked permission to name their second child after the Queen. The baby's name was not Elizabeth, but Lilibet, the Queen's intimate nickname she'd requested never be spoken after Philip died. Sense of entitlement, lack of boundary recognition. Harry's wife's father has begged to resume contact with her, which she ended after his heart attack just before her wedding. Disengagement, lack of emotional empathy. On the public stage, Harry's wife speaks incessantly of compassion and elevating women's voices and change, demonstrating once again, of course, her hypocrisy and false compassion. The author recently watched a video from a series on the YouTube channel Cherie Denise, showing the host's comments on Tom Barr's revenge. She voiced astonishment that Harry's wife clearly communicates how to live a decent life and sympathy for less fortunate people, in Harry's wife's preferred words, the marginalised, without demonstrating those principles in life. Hypocrisy. Cherie Denise is not alone in her bafflement. Harry's wife's inconsistencies go way beyond a disconnect between expressed ideals and private behaviour. Stories from her own life, told multiple times, bringing up the past, were consistently inconsistent. Nowhere near the truth. International fame created opportunities for many people to notice, collect, and attempt to fit the pieces together. In Harry's wife's New York Times op-ed, her 2020 miscarriage started while changing Archie's diaper. In Netflix's Harry and Harry's Wife's episode 6, cramps started as she greeted a visitor at the door. This is demonstrative, of course, of her inability to tell the truth because her narcissism is making it up. It's revising history. And when it brings up the past, it's bringing up an invented past. There's her Please Don't Tell It Again story, broadcast by Nickelodeon's Nick News in 1993, wherein 11-year-old Harry's wife's complaint letter to P&G about a sexist dish soap ad changed the world. Revision of history. In one telling, critiquing advertisements was a homework assignment. Another version had her watching TV at home, infuriated by the ad. When her classroom's TV happened to show the ad, 2 boys commented that she wouldn't like it. A mismatch between witnesses and the Sussexes' reports, the nearly catastrophic car chase in Manhattan was a scenario so implausible that an IMDb search yields one result, a 1961 promotional film about Chase Manhattan Plaza, The French Connection. Chase was set in Coney Island. No lawsuits have been announced. For a while, the author suspected inattention to consistency was a hangover of sloppy old habits, developed when ghosting friends and noping out of events wouldn't have followed Harry's wife far. Inconsequential for a Hollywood wannabe or a small fish in the small pond of Toronto, where she'd latched onto Canada's beautiful people like fish that nibble parasites off shark skins, famous people's inconsistent stories do get noticed. Watching Cherie Denise's bafflement, it hit me why Harry's wife is so maddeningly indifferent to discontinuity. It's irrelevant to her purposes. She doesn't see herself as we do, as someone living her life. Well, actually, she is indifferent to the discontinuity because of her narcissism and the way that it compartmentalizes. Harry's wife's creating a grand production, arranging scenes and set pieces that will eventually be the movie. It's her wonderful life. She's writer, director, producer and star, ready for her close-up, Mr. DeMille. She could say to Oprah she was an only child. She was playing a character who'd been an only child. Young Harry's wife sharing a bathroom with a half-sister wasn't relevant. If it's part of a movie, actions and like her statements aren't hypocrisy. Just a character named Harry's wife played by an actress named Harry's wife. Her public speeches don't have to make sense, just feature photogenic moments and words like impact and sustainable. Now, at a Hollywood practice called scrapbooking, filming a movie or show with no script or outline, then after filming selecting scenes to string together. The Blair Witch Project and the 2016 all-female Ghostbusters had no scripts. Famously, Casablanca was written during filming. Even a scripted film's problem scenes can be edited or cut. Scrapbooking a production explains why Harry's wife is indifferent, that people see her as a villainous but incandescent when unflattering opinions of her are published. Nobody cares a movie star is difficult offset, but bad reviews can tank a movie. Some of the observations below the line. J.C. Rains, she is a deceptive, narcissistic, quick-change artist, a whore for expedience, and the poster girl for a coarse and vulgar culture. She is as shallow as they come, as flamboyant as the culture demands, and a shrewd grifter. She wants to reflect class, but it comes out as crassness. All the things she is reflect the wider debased culture. Geoffrey Rogers, Harry will have regrets, but do not forget he came rightly, have a lot of malice towards the king based on the way that the king treated his mum. The king is the real spoiled child here, who's neither a proper father or husband. Harry was only important if something happened to William. He was vulnerable to a vulture like Harry's wife. Bridget Goldstein, who really gives a shit about this woman or her consort? The American thinker should stick to more serious discussion and refrain from giving such irrelevant nitwits any press. David Thomas. These two insufferable twits are the least interesting thing to write about. They're spoilt children who have not and never will contribute to the world. The point is, however, is that talking about her in the way that she did to try and make sense of her, she misses the fact that she's a narcissist. She misses the fact that the behaviours that she talks about, this scrapbooking, is in effect the compartmentalisation of her narcissism. The fact that she appears to be indifferent when people see her as villainous, except she isn't, because it will affect her sense of control, once again belies a failure to understand that this individual is a narcissist. What the writer does, of course, successfully is identify the many inconsistencies, contradictions, hypocrisies, and revisions of history that Harry's wife engages in. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.